stock certificate, and you can give it to someone you trust, and you can say, here, hold on to this for me. Now, you're the stock owner, but you're not the stock holder. The dividends will flow to the holder of the stock. If they have votes on whether or not there's going to be any mergers or acquisitions or unions or partnerships, it's the holder of the stock that gets to vote. Our stock is worth millions and millions of dollars. It's a function of the value of the country and its resources divided by the number of people in the country. Your stock is likely worth somewhere between $8 and $13 million. I read somewhere that a lady about 5 or 6 years ago went and got her stock redeemed, and she got $8 million for it. She wanted to cash in her stock, though, for the cash. You don't have to do that. Your birth certificate evidences two things. One is the existence of the stock or the share or the security. And the other one is that it evidences the trust relationship where you're not the holder, somebody else is. You have the power to hold that stock. Section 337 of the Criminal Code states that there's 5 aspects to it, but if you have a right to demand something from somebody who is in possession of your property, and they're in possession of it by virtue of their employment with the government, and you demand it and they fail to give it to you, they can go to jail for 14 years. You have the power to demand to hold on to your security, and it says so right in the Bill of Rights. Life, liberty, and the security of the person. That's how they hide it. They want you to think, oh, the protection of my person, or the protection of, I don't even know what it means, but it's an actual physical document that you can get hold of. If you held this document, the dividends would flow to you 4 times a year. We're probably talking about $80,000 to $150,000 every period coming right into your pocket. You have a right to use this money for anything that Canada is recognized as a human right by virtue of the fact that they're a signatory on a United Nations covenant. You have the right to use it for food, health care, housing, transportation, education, access to the courts, just about anything that you recognize as a fundamental human right and need. This is what the whole game is about. This is what they don't want you to realize, is that Canada is a landmass of enormous value. And this corporation has seized control of this landmass, but you are one of the share owners. You're not a holder. When they look at the, who here has heard of the North American Union and the Security Partnership Prosperity? Who here wants to stop those? Yeah, I'm with you there. Security and Partnership, or Security Prosperity Partnership. That's where American security comes north and Canadian prosperity goes south, and we end up tied up like this. They're trying to take our country. Now, when they do this, the only way they can do it lawfully is if they are acting with the power to vote. And that means they have to be holding your stock in trust. The moment you demand the return of your stock, they lose the ability to vote regardless of whether or not they give it to you. There's a maxim in equity that states that which ought to be done must be seen as having been done. If you demand your security and they don't give it to you immediately, and the next day they have a vote and they tried to say, oh, well, we were holding his shares, so we get to vote with that. No, sorry. The moment you demand it, they lose the power to vote, and all of these dividends must start flowing to you. That's what the whole big game is about. They want you to be a government agent, an employee of the corporation, so that these rules that compel only the employees of the corporation will apply to you, because then they can govern you and get you running ragged all over the place. They don't want you to be a stockholder, because then they don't get to play with the dividends. It's what it's all about. It's all about money. It's all about power and control, and this is how they have done it. They get to play with the stock, they get to play with the money, and when it comes time to the North American Union and the Security Partnership or Prosperity Partnership, the people who hold the stock will vote, and that's not you. Not until you make your demand under Section 337, hold on to your security, and then you can, when they start saying, okay, well, we're going to have a stockholder vote to decide whether or not we're going to have a North American Union, you can rise up and say, I vote no. And when all your friends start saying, well, how are you doing that? You can show them the actual stock certificate evidencing your share in Canada, show them the dividend check, and watch this spread like wildfire. Now there's for a quick thing before we go, we're going to have a little break so we can change batteries, and I can have a smoke break. Yesterday or a little while ago, someone was talking about what is commerce. Now they do have certain claims and control over certain things. Let's imagine, let's agree for a moment that they do have the power to regulate and tax commerce. But if we never decide what is commerce, if we let them decide what it is, you're going to be taxing and regulating everything. Commerce is not what you likely think it is. Commerce is defined as to buy and sell. Now they'll want you to think, oh, you went and you bought something, and therefore you engaged in commerce. Or you sold something, and therefore you engaged in commerce. And that's not the case. There is a big difference between the word and the word or. And these lawyers, they know the difference. And they use them. They know. They don't make mistakes like this. When they're talking about liability and who has the power to tax, they do not make mistakes, boy, I'll tell you that. If, and or. Commerce, in order for them to be able to tax it or regulate it, there must be a component of harm. They do not tax or regulate anything unless they can claim there's a potential for harm. Buying something, just buying something, you only took one step. Commerce is to buy and sell, 2 steps. If you grow something and you sell it, you've grown and sold. That's not commerce. If, let's say, there's a village, and in this village there is someone who knows how to grow wheat. So they grow wheat, but they don't know how to mill it. So they take it to someone who knows how to mill it. He mills it, but he don't know how to bake bread. So he takes the flour, gives it to a baker. The baker knows how to bake bread. The 3 of them working together, everyone gets to eat. No one bought and sold because they all took 3 steps, except for the grower. The miller, he bought flour or he bought wheat, then he milled it, he added value, and then he sold it. Not 2 steps, 3 steps. That's not commerce. The baker bought flour, added value, then sold it. 3 steps, not 2 steps. There is no harm there, but commerce is the buy and sell. Now imagine in this small town there's a guy with a lot of money. And when the wheat becomes available, he buys all the wheat. And he just sits on it, and he does nothing with it. He holds on to it until there's a greater artificial lack. And then he sells it for an obscene profit. 2 steps. He bought, he sold, added no value in between. That's where the potential for harm is. That's commerce. That can be regulated. That can be taxed. But if they get you thinking commerce is buy or sell, they will regulate every aspect of your life. And the trick is, they don't want to have to work for the bread. They don't want to have to grow the wheat, mill the flour, or bake the bread. They want bread with everyone else working while they can just sit back and say, oh, where's the honey now? The trick is to identify properly what these words mean, because if you don't, they will define the words for you. And they will always define them in a way that sees you paying them. All the time.
So we ended up getting some marijuana oil from somebody and put it on his skin cancer, and within 2 weeks it was gone. So we started getting more of it and giving it to all his friends with cancer, and they all started getting better, and so we started giving it away, and then the cops came and they arrested him because he was growing and trying to give away oil, and when he went to talk to his doctors and stuff, they all thought he was crazy, or they didn't actually want to hear it. They don't want to hear if there's a cure for anything. So anyway, leading into this, what we're working on, this thing called Remedy, one of the things that we're actually doing is giving away marijuana oil to people, and some other alternative therapies that the powers that be don't like us using. And we actually had a friend of ours go into a hospital yesterday. There's a 24-year-old guy with leukemia, and he's basically on his last leg, and so they went in there, they gave him some oil and one of these fancy watches here that I got, and actually more intense version of that, and they hooked him up to this machine, and